This weekend's But Why fight coming up at 135 pounds. We have JP Buday, a man who's been knocked out not once, not twice, not 3 times. He's been knocked down 8 times in his last 3 fights. And JP Buday is going to be taking on Marcus McGhee. Now, if you do consider it for JP Buday, his last win was back in 2020 on Contender Series over now 10-9 Jacob Silva. And what got JP Buday to the dance? You might be asking yourself that. Why would I even consider him in this fight? It was his offensive wrestling at 125. He's a former UFC flyweight champ. Just like Jake Hadley, who fought last weekend, got himself into some bad positions against Cody Durden. Just like, who else? Like, throw out a name. Cameron Simon had good success in the lower weight classes with the UFC. So for JP Buday, good wrestling, but he's gotten a little bit wild in these fights. And he started out in the UFC like he had Fortis lineage with Saif Saud, moved it down to Vegas, training at Extreme Couture. So we'll see how it all plays out for JP Buday, because when he sees red, the wheels really do fall off. And again, those big 3 losses, you look at the level of competition, it is pretty high, but you're getting knocked down 8 times in 3 fights. It's kind of a surprise that this fight's taking place. Kind of similar to Daniel Da Silva Lacerda. That guy just keeps getting finished, but keeps getting fights. So if you look at this, for Marcus McGhee, performance of the night bonus in a short notice debut during the week that was against Journey Newson. And I know you guys want a little bit of flavor. Matt's over in Europe. A little bit of pasta sauce over there. You want to hear from him? Let's hear a little bit from Matt Allen about this matchup and about Marcus McGhee. And in steps Humphreys McGhee. I'm talking about the maniac, Marcus McGhee. And I don't know if he likes jam bands, but what I do know is that you might have heard of him. And for those who are kind of uninitiated out there, for some of the fight fans that might not recognize the man on the right-hand side of our screen that's not wearing a hat, the man with the hair, I'm talking about Marcus McGhee. You might know him from the Instagrams. You might know him as Sean O'Malley's training partner. Exactly. But when I look at a guy like Marcus McGhee, who's been featured heavily with Kyler Phillips, with a guy like Mario Bautista, and with Sugar Sean O'Malley, McGee's kind of been able to mold out his own fighting. And if you've seen him, he's competed with a few different organizations, whether it's Rough MMA. He main evented his pro debut in 2020 with Rough. Valentine's Day Massacre was the name of the show. He main evented that one. Ruff had a couple of road to 1, and that's 1 championship cards. After that, he got a couple of wins there. Those are kind of co-promoted, spearheaded a little bit by Rich Franklin. And then if you look at it, LFA, he also fought with Cajuns versus Cowboys, or Cowboys versus Cajuns. We talked about that promotion recently where Aaron Phillips had competed with them, and that was his step into the UFC, and a couple of bouts with the LFA. But when you look at a guy like Marcus McGhee, obviously he's going to have a height advantage. He's going to have a reach advantage using those metrics that we've seen from the LFA. Now, it should be noted that this is a catchweight bout of 140 pounds because McGhee is in on Wednesday night getting set for the fight that's on Saturday. But Matt, when we look at this fight, where McGhee has struggled, and just in that one loss to Nascimento, a.k.a. Militia. That's what they called him over there. And he had like the metal Militia tattoo on his back. And you know what? For Militia, I thought, why not break out the Dirty Craig jersey? Let's just get crazy with the names on our backs, Matt, for the Craig Kimbrell shout out. But when you look at a guy like Marcus McGhee, Matt, does he fight like Brian Kelleher? Not at all. Not at all.
I like how he moves forward with his combinations. I will say that. He's not a guy like Kelleher who's going to use the combinations as much to set up his wrestling, but when he moves forward, when he's really able to go downhill with his shots, let's put it this way. If Journey Newson finds his back up against the cage, this is going to be a really difficult fight for him because McGhee is an interesting fighter. He can fight really well from the southpaw stance. He will switch stances as he is throwing combinations moving forward, and that's a really nice thing to see, and it does show that he does have not only a high level of training partner, but that's the thing that I do like about McGhee. I was a little worried when I initially saw 32 years old, almost 33, coming into the UFC. I think this is a great matchup for him, though, coming into.
When I look at a guy like McGhee, I went down through and I watched every single fight. There's 7 pro fights so far, from the rough days.
That's pretty darn exciting,
all the way up to the LFA. And I can break them all down in unison, but what I did have in my notes, so when he's fighting from southpaw, he's throwing hooks, he's working his boxing to the body, to the head.
And if I may, he does like to lead with the left straight and not always set up with the jab. I kind of like that. It just makes it up for his
He doesn't throw a jab. He doesn't throw
That's
a jab
what I mean.
at all.
He'll throw the left straight instead of the jab. I like that.
Yeah, Marcus McGhee doesn't throw a jab whatsoever. He throws the left straight. He throws hooks from both hands. And then he also, what I had in here is when he's from southpaw, he throws a roundhouse to the body. When he switches over to orthodox, it's only to land 2 strikes. It's leg kicks and teep kicks up the middle, and that's it from the orthodox stance. He rarely will throw his hands from orthodox. He'll then switch back over to southpaw.
He will step, though, as he's moving forward. That's why it does kind of look like
when he's on the defensive for McGhee. The other way, if he's trying to close distance, he'll throw a flying knee to close distance and drop his hands. He'll also throw kicks, drop his hands, and throw naked kicks where he's liable to getting taken down from either double leg or single leg positions. And I had that in my notes against Nascimento. He goes and throws a kick, and then he's completely naked. Nascimento runs the pipe all the way across the cage, gets a takedown, and then he kind of gives up on it. He stacks guard, gives up. They both get back up. But it is McGhee, after a lot of hand fighting, after a lot of kind of cross faces. It was almost like a neck crank. They considered it a rear naked choke, but that's his one loss. Apart from that, though, in certain fights, it was his last fight that he had over with the LFA, and then it was his first fight. He fought with his hands really, really low to the ground, where striking defense was either backing up with his hands down to his left, or just backing straight up with his hands down. So Marcus McGhee, he's billed as a paragon fighter, a semi-professional skateboarder. It's kind of like Ricky Bobby's dad in Talladega Nights, an amateur tattoo artist maybe as well. But if you look at it from Marcus McGhee, great forward pressure, drops Journey Newson. He was working the body, he was working the head, he's got great kicks. And when I look at a fight like this, it's a little tough because, again, you get fighters like this, they'll lose quite a few fights in a row, and then they finally get a favorable stylistic matchup. We talked about it with McGhee against Old Metal Militia. He struggled with the takedown in that one. So if Bays can work in the wrestling, Extreme Couture might finally be that opportunity for Bays to get a win like that. But for me, I do like Marcus McGhee in the matchup. And I know Matt has McGhee in this one as well, but it should be a really interesting one because can Bays get back on the horse, or does he go a dreaded 0-4 to start and maybe end his UFC career? Both of us in this one going with McGhee to get the win. Probably not the craziest pick that you've seen out there, but the next matchup that we have, Josh Fremd taking on Jamie the Nightwolf. Pickett. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.